Okay, welcome to another Funky Marketing podcast. Today I have a great pleasure to welcome one of the guys that I've been following for a while. I think in my last three companies that I work at right now, uh, he has always been one of those guys that are very direct, very strict, and going about talking about the things that other people are not talking about, or being more direct than the others and being honest, and kind of going from one thing he was doing. He was famous, most known for conversion optimization and experimentation, and then he moved slowly into creating different businesses. So Pep, I think I get the name right. Can
Yeah.
you extend on that and tell us a little bit more about you?
Well, as you said, I'm an entrepreneur. I have multiple businesses that I run, and conversion optimization business is one of them. Our agency that actually today we are spinning off into a new brand. So it used to be CXL Agency, so it's going to be Speero from now on, moving more into customer optimization. Then I have an e-learning company called CXL and a messaging research company called Wynter.
That's interesting. How did you come up with the name? I saw the email when you changed the name and announced that you are going into transition. How did you come up with the name Winter, and like why?
Mm-hmm. Well, we launched the brand as copy testing, copytesting.com, and two things happened. So what we do is we provide data on how well your copy and messaging performs. So it's like the last domain of the gut feel marketing. We can measure everything except how well are the words on our page performing. So that's the problem we're solving. So we launched this copytesting.com, but then we learned about two things. So as you learn and reduce feedback cycles, start to learn more about the market, the customer, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, we learned that in marketing teams or in organizations, copy is often relegated and delegated to the most junior people in their team, the intern, the junior marketer, and etc. It feels like anybody can write words, so it's not important. But what is important is positioning and messaging. That's at the highest level of the company. They're thinking about the messaging and positioning. So that was one motivation to change the name. Second motivation was that as we're building this product, our vision for what all we need to build and where our product is headed, that vision is getting clearer. And we realized that testing how well your copy performs is just a feature that we're going to have, and the product is going to evolve much beyond there. But by choosing that name, we painted ourselves in the corner by being monofunctional. And so once realizing that we need to change our positioning and we're going to evolve what we do, we need to change the name. So I did a lot of name research, how to name companies. I've renamed companies in the past and named and renamed them, but picked it up again. And then I'm really fascinated by the psychology of naming companies after people, like Oscar, Marcus, Casper, and all that stuff. And so it makes, in the end, brands. Brand is your best moat. Your sustainable competitive advantage is your brand, and brands that are more like humans are easier to relate to, and so on and so forth. And so what I did, I hired a guy from Fiverr, $5, to check for me which human name domain names were still available. .coms and .ios, and I had him. He was checking 10,000 names for me, and the answer was that the 0 .coms are available. All names are taken. if you want just a name.com, you could do get name or name app, things. And so out of the IOs, Wynter, which is a girl's name, our IO was available, and then hey, there's also it's a cool name, it's easy to pronounce, and you can have fun with it. Game of Thrones references with Winter is coming, and so on, and so that was it.
Nice, nice. I love that reference, especially when like you are launching it now. I mean, changing the name in the middle of the winter. Actually, it was the start of the winter, so just the right time. So tell me, we wanted to talk a little bit about message market fit, differentiation, those kind of things. And I remember when I was first thinking about it. One of the first names that came up at the time was Dan Olsen, and he had this kind of presentation when he used. I remember it still today. The example from Apple and their first like iPod, when they say like you get the 1,000 songs in your pocket, those kind of things, and it kind of stuck to me, and I was always thinking about it no matter what we are doing, because like a lot of people are talking about product market fit, like you need to have the product market fit to get on with it, but they kind of forget the other side, which is message market fit and needs to follow the product market fit. So maybe we can get a little bit into that, like differentiation between product market fit and message market fit.
Right. So message market fit, I think, is part of product market fit, and you need to achieve the message market fit before. So how I define it or how I see it is that it's like you have certain messaging on your advertising, on your websites, or whatever reaches the customer and the ideal customer. They read it and they go like, yes, they resonated. It somehow connects with them. It talks to the pain they have, or it talks to the gain they want to achieve. So when they really resonate with it, they get curious, they want to explore more. They might sign up with it. Obviously, they doesn't mean that they will sign up, because maybe the price is not a match, or maybe they sign up, but your product is actually not, what they're looking for, and so on and so forth. But still, if provided that they are in the right they're the right customer who can also pay the price, and they have the need, and the tool is good, then this is it's a critical component of product market fit. And same for the ads. Once you start scaling your advertising, you haven't tested your messaging. If you're not sure what about what you're saying about your company really hits home with the intended customer, and what actually is kind of like meh, then you have a problem, and your ad campaign will just waste a lot of money. So achieving message market fit is critical to A, get to product market fit, and B, to scale your marketing in an effective way.
Yeah, and it can help us also differentiate, right? Because as we are seeing today, there are so many companies over there, and we can easily find the competitors for whatever we are doing. And
Exactly, yeah.
I think it's never been easier to like go ahead and search and find somebody who is over there looking for some services, but how can we actually differentiate ourselves from the others and stand out a little bit?
Yeah, so if your messaging does not make it clear how you are different, the odds are, first of all, that nobody will ever find out about you, or like very few people, because the word will not get around. The way I look at the differentiation, it doesn't actually start from messaging. It starts from the DNA of a company, like, because differentiation is not a line of copy you write. It starts from somewhere deeper. It's about getting in tune about your brand, and what are you really about. And obviously, you need to know what are all these competitive options out there, and like where are you adding something new and different to the conversation. So if I was to start a new email marketing SaaS company today, and I would say, hey, send beautiful email newsletters and test your email campaigns. You know, this has already been solved 1,000 times over. It will go nowhere. Nobody will care about this messaging because, like MailChimp, the market leader in this category, already did these things 20 years ago, right? They're still doing it. People don't need another one, and also maybe you're cheaper, but, cheaper is a really poor competitive strategy unless you have some sort of a major structural advantage that you can do this while others cannot, and you can do this profitably. But then again, in email, the free and the cheap has already been done. It's like the Amazon SES or like all these providers. So you cannot do free as well. So you actually need to be different. And then obviously there are lots of different ways how you can be different and differentiate. But it starts from the differentiation starts from actually being different. And then obviously your messaging needs to make it clear that this is not some sort of a vanilla, we do these things as well type of company.
Yeah, or we do it all. Like
Right, exactly, yeah.
That is the most common.
We serve everyone and we do it all.
Yeah, it resonates a lot because for us, what we do to create demand, especially on LinkedIn, when we use like personal profiles and we amplify people in front of the companies, it's important to find out the companies that have the culture, the values, but to have that, the founder needs to know his story and then transfer the stories to the employees so everybody can find their place inside the company. And I think that's where it all starts. Like, why are we actually here? And how can I be part of the story? And then we go to the customers and how they can fit in the whole story. Right? It's not all about like we listen to everything that customer says and that's how we go, but sometimes it's a little bit different.
Right, exactly right, yes.
One thing I wanted to touch a little bit, and I'm seeing it as I was like a mentor for these agri-tech companies, startups, and like somebody who is new in the field and just going to it, and I'm looking at listening to founders, looking at the companies, and like they are all putting in the first place, in the first plan, like the features of what they are creating it. Like we can use drones to overview the location. We can do all kind of tech stuff, and like the farmer comes and says like, what do I have out of it? Like, I don't care if you use drone or you use something else, like what's in it for me? So I think we maybe we can discuss a little bit about how we can move the shift from talking about the features, talking about the product, and to talk a little bit about why the customers would actually care.
Right. I think, well, there is a time and place to talk about the features and so on. And the way I think about it is, A, how savvy is the buyer? And B, how novel is the product? So if I am selling an email marketing SaaS tool, I don't need to say what is the benefit of email marketing or what is the benefit of sending newsletters or what is the benefit of testing A/B testing emails. They already know. It would be insulting their intelligence if I started to explain ABCs, or if I'm selling an A/B testing software company, I mean, I'm selling to conversion optimization professionals, and I say I do A/B testing, which means blah blah blah, blah and why do it? Like, it's insulting. So you really need to sell features. It's a very savvy buyer. It's a mature category. People know what is what. Obviously, differentiation matters because, like, I mean, I already got an A/B testing tool, right? So, but if it's a category that is new, if it's new, if it's emerging, if if this is not a standard product. For instance, agency services are not standard products because there is no, I mean, when you say you do content marketing, it can mean very many things. Does it include, like you need to explain a lot of things. Same with like Wynter, when we're in the space of testing your messaging, which is a completely new thing. It's not something that most people don't think about that they need to do it. And it's not a standard thing that already exists. So I need to sell a lot about why do it, what is the benefit, and how does it even work, or what is it. I need to do a lot of work there, whereas others might not do it. And then you do want to, if you are able to segment the customers in some sort of a way in their awareness cycle, are they product aware or problem aware, or if you're able to do that, bucket them more or less accurately, then obviously your funnels, your ads, they might move them through different phases of how much of why you're selling. Then there's the whole thing about people buy why you do it, not what you do. I'm not sure if I buy that actually. Like it sounds really beautiful, it makes a hell of a TEDx video. But so I'm a bit of a not a skeptic, but let's say I'm maybe a little bit jaded about this. Like who buys email marketing because why they do it? I mean, there might be an exception, which is Hey, the new service from the Basecamp founders, because they actually have a strong why, they have a story, so it might work in their case, because they have a stance, they have a point of view, which is the best way to launch anything these days. Because the classic way is you launch a new SaaS tool is you start from positioning. It's like, where do we fit in, and who we're for, and how to think about us. And I think positioning game, not most, but a large amount of companies do well. Positioning game, large amount of companies do well. Most are still communicating as if they were the only ones doing what they're doing, even though they have 1,000 competitors, which is loserdom. But then the positioning game, since competition is nuts, right? In the MarTech alone, there are more than 8,000 tools. Inside the MarTech tools, there are like 100 A/B testing tools and 188 social media management tools. Like the competition is really, really tough. So then strategic narrative or narrative design is the new way to think about positioning, which starts from the change in the world, or how the world is but shouldn't be, like a bigger picture thing, like what Hey is doing, explaining the why, who's the enemy. And then we have a strong point of view and opinion about how things should be. And that's what we stand for, and that's polarizing, which is what you want. Because if you don't have an opinion, you're like, it's very tempting to be a safe and boring company, to say safe and predictable things, and it's inoffensive. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody will call you out. Nobody will say you're a Nazi, or However, nobody will also care. So my favorite example of polarization or brand who knows itself really well is actually IKEA furniture. So think about it, and like it's in when people are asked to name a unique company, it's always top of the list. And it's weird because the company is like from 1940s, and until today there is not a single company that does the same thing, right? Like, of course, furniture is a competitive category, but nobody has like ripped them off. It also explains how difficult it is to do what they're doing. And what I admire about their brand is like, they have certain brand philosophies. Obviously, a lot goes into like the business reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. But in brand ways, like they decide that furniture, the table needs to be under $100, and then they figure out the pricing and how big the box should be, and then working it backwards. and then they have no salespeople, like very few salespeople on the floor, and you need to assemble your own furniture and pick up your own things, boxes, and the drill. So if you think about what people hate about IKEA, is all those things. We can all come up with a big list of things that we hate about IKEA, and yet it is the most valuable furniture company in the world, the most valuable. And in the global list of most valuable retailers, it's way up there. I forget the exact spot, but they're like, it's one of the most valuable companies in the world, retailers in the world, and they're so polarizing. So half the people hate them, half the people love them. That's where you want to be. You want to be clearly different. And imagine doing consumer research for IKEA. Like get on the phone with users, and it's like, oh, I really hate, that I have to pick up my own packaging. I really hate that there's no support around when I need it. And you write down, and like 100 people tell you these complaints. Normally, what you would do is there's like, oh, we need better service. We need more customer support people or salespeople around. We need to do all these things to address the problems. However, IKEA says, no, this is how it works. It's essential for their business model to work. So they have certain brand principles that they do not compromise on, and they work around them. So any feedback needs to be filtered through, a certain brand lens first, which, and I think very few companies get away, are able to do this, because it takes a very strong brand. Really need to know your identity to not follow all the user feedback.
Yeah, and you can see the experience in everything they do. Like when you enter the object, like you're moving from one place to the other, they're guiding you the way they want you to go from the entrance to the end. And that's how you look for the things, like depending on which part of your house or your room you want to buy stuff and those kind of things. And
Well, for sure, there are like other really smart business things to do. Like, because all the IKEA stores are far away from the center, where real estate is cheap, and it takes you a long time to get there. Drive for an hour, and then inside the store, how much time do you spend? Way more than 1 hour, 2-3 hours. And in order your irrational mind to justify the trip, the time you spend there, like you make it worth it by buying more stuff.
exactly, even like having a lunch and all those kind of things. And I remember, this came to my mind, like that commercial they have. Actually, it's not a commercial, they just renamed the products based on how the people are using them. Like the couch was the place when you go to sleep when your husband is snoring, like
Mm.
those kind of things. And it's like really it's experience again, and showing different things, like how are people actually consuming their stuff.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, and also, playing on their Swedish heritage and like the unpronounceable names for the products, and all that stuff. It's just quirky. It's weird in the best sense. And what is the next alternative? Obviously the furniture category will vary from country to country, but basically, uh, in most markets, the next alternative to IKEA is a really fucking boring furniture company, right? That have nothing special about them. Maybe they sell furniture that lasts forever, and their store is full of salespeople, but it's still, it's vanilla experience, boring as fuck.
Yeah. Who else do you see as a good example when it comes to messaging and differentiation? Like I was looking at now when things were happening with pandemic, with Black Lives Matters, all those movements, and like here in Serbia, we had like uh, sort of like demonstrations. We had problems with the quality of the air, all kinds of issues with the government, but still like no company is taking a stand. No company is getting involved with that. And so I was like, I cannot say, okay, we have some good examples here, but I need to go and see what like companies in the US, in Europe, maybe what they are doing differently, so I can like show to the people that's what you need to do. You need to take a stand sometimes, not so you be. I'm gonna go underground as much as possible, and hopefully nobody will see me until it passed. And that's not how you do it.
Yeah. Well, I think is like, I mean, the fear of not fear of taking a stance is understandable. Oh, you know, people will hate us. Okay, great, and they will. But then another portion of people will love you, you know. So ultimately, it also it comes down to a lot of the founders of the company, you know, like it the founders need to have an opinion on things, like because like the cause, committing to a cause needs to be authentic, or otherwise it's like the whitewashing, and it doesn't work. People will see through the bullshit if you're actually not serious about it, if you turn it into a marketing campaign. So it needs to be like a long lasting you know, point of view for how your company fits in, what do you care about. So like Patagonia in the United States, you know, making outdoor clothing. Um,
When,
you
when
know,
it's
they
not
are
about when it's not about clothing, it's about other
right. I
things.
mean, because if you wanted to also, it's just smart business by taking a stance. Yes, they're an outdoor. They're like all about hiking and camping and so on. So obviously they should care about nature, right? Because they are for people who care about nature, or who love to be outdoors. So it makes sense that they have that sort of a point of view, and obviously any corporate responsibility needs to be aligned with the customer segment or the world that you serve. And so by taking a stance, you become more attracted to the people who identify with your cause. Yes, you repel a portion of your potential demographic, but you become more attractive to another group of people. So in that sense, it's smart. And you know, when we look at how Nike stands on you know, being against police brutality and, you know, women's rights and so on, those messaging, they've done really well for the company. And obviously, if you disagree, you have many choices, because they're all most companies are vanilla in terms of their commitment to causes, you know, like maybe they do, but they haven't. I mean, I'm not in their sphere, so like I don't know what Reebok is, what does it stand for. I have no idea actually, like, or even Adidas. I'm sure they do some stuff, but you know, their PR machine at least hasn't been as good. They haven't been as vocal about that stuff.
Yeah, I remember only like Adidas recently from the story with the founders, like Puma versus Adidas, like two brothers, two founders. It's kind of a different story. One went with the Nazi Germany, other ones went with the US, and kind of like two different stories. And that's how they build it. It's I mean, it's interesting. So what I'm interested in, what can you suggest to the listeners about how can we come up with the messaging about the product and see if it's a good one even before we have a product, before it goes out of the company. Like
Hmm.
Amazon is doing. There's a like this famous example when they have this PR technique when like if how the opera is gonna react when she sees it. Is she gonna jump on the sofa and like shout it out to the world, or she was just like, nah, it's not something I'm interested in. And do you maybe have some advices when it comes to that?
Yeah, so obviously it depends on the stage you're in. So if you're starting a new company, hopefully you're coming to a place where you have identified an underserved customer segment, underserved needs. So you start from a place of like, this particular group of people is just suffering, and I can help them. I can solve a problem for them, and that is your first messaging. Right? Like and the problem should be big enough that they actually care. Typically, it starts from solving your own problem, but there are many ways to land on it. So yeah, so the first messaging is typically about the problem you're solving. So in case that also that you don't start from that place, let's say you've been working at an agency for 10 years, and now you think, oh, I should do my own agency. So you're not really solving a problem. You just want to break off on your own. So that's different. Then I would do a really understand the category you're in. Like who are all the players in the category? You start from the top, who have the most awareness about you. They have the most awareness because when people need an agency, then there's the concept of mental availability. They think about, who, like, let's say in B2B marketing, like who is the B2B marketing agency? So you want to be, you want to understand what are the positions different companies occupy in customers' mind. And you don't really want to try to occupy the same space as the category leaders. Like look at the top 5 if you have access to that data. How are they positioning, and you don't want to do the same. And maybe if it's like if you look at the bottom 5, let's say they're like you identify 50 competitors. Obviously, bottom 5, nobody knows they exist, so you can go for the same positioning if you want to. So that's where I would start from, and then really think about what is the point of view, what is the brand opinion that it is unique to you, and then there are all these different ways that you can like naturally differentiate, whether it's like your value space, like Patagonia cares of says fuck Trump and yay nature. You can have an like a value like that you add to the mix, or you can be all about the heritage story, the founder story. Like we can go into the ways to differentiate here, and then I would, once I have that down, like I understand where the competition is going, and then I find out a unique position that I could grab in the mind of the customer. Then the next step is to test that messaging with your target audience. That basically what it means is that you would need to recruit people from the audience that you're selling to. So if you're selling to product managers, so now you need to get in front of product managers and have them look at your messaging and tell you what they think of it, and not in a way like, hey, what do you think, but like using methodical qualitative research, asking research questions about your messaging, about your copy, and you'll learn so much. You learn even down to the word level, where like some words just resonate and hit home, and some are like blah. And of course, most of stuff that you will find is that half the things that you will write is going to be like meh. I've seen it before. It's like or like I don't care about it. It's like obvious. And then when you have that data, you can tweak it and make it better. And while your positioning should be, let's say if you nail your positioning, it doesn't change very often. Like you should always be checking. But if you've done your positioning groundwork well, it should not change. But messaging itself is always constantly changing, evolving, and so you should be also constantly testing it. Like minimum once a year. I would do it quarterly at least. And we should not confuse messaging with copy, because you can have your Christmas campaign and whatever different, like you can ship different copies. So the hierarchy, I think, is like there's positioning. From positioning comes messaging, like the key things that we want to say about us, and then the messaging you translate into final words, and then the words can change and fluctuate a lot. Messaging also, as I said, at least quarterly you should revisit it. And positioning changes, much less often.
Yeah, sounds good. That's well said. And I think we are just not talking that much about these things. And I'm seeing a lot of people talking about different stuff, but not really trying to differentiate themselves. Like um, one of the examples that I saw is, and I just wanted to mention it, like Chris Walker from Refine Labs. He just stated, and he keeps saying things that we all think about, like companies going after MQLs, not going after SQLs, doing meaningful things like going after ebook download, going after webinar signups, those kind of things, and not going after other stuff. And just by stating something that was already supposed to be like basic, this is how it should be, how things should be, and like other people didn't think about it, so he's just saying in the name of the other people. And like that's also one of the things that a lot more people need to get in over there and try just to be yourselves. I'm always saying that it's much harder to be someone else, to act like someone else. It takes efforts, additional things. You need to always think about what I'm going to say and those kind of things. But when you are yourself, you are different just by being you.
Totally. I mean, you are also not a static thing, and you're constantly evolving. So you can be also, let's say, the future you. So that if your brand image, let's say, is the future you, I like to think of it as it keeps you on your toes, and you constantly want to match up with the image that you're putting out there. Because like the future you is obviously smarter, more sexy, and more handsome. So you want to match up to the image.
Yeah. So tell me, what's the future for you? You started with copy testing. Now it's Wynter. How are you evolving?
Yeah, well, I mean, differentiation, when I first really started thinking about it, and it's probably like it's been a year and a half, 2 years when this has been really a top of mind issue for me. And obviously, the first thing is that I look at my own companies. And it's like, well, what can I do? Because if I look at CXL, my e-learning company is marketing education, and you can think of it as, if I really have to describe the company in the most boring way possible, I would say it's a bunch of videos, right? Obviously, it's the best and the in-depth, and we have the best practitioners. It's all true. But in the e-learning scene, it's the easiest companies to start these days because anybody has access to decent cameras today. It's very cheap. And if you know some stuff, you can just turn on the camera and start talking, right? And bam, you have your own online course. So in the e-learning space, there's a lot of competition from the ground, like all these independent creators. Of course, distribution is a massive challenge for them, so they're not eating too much into our business. But like the whole group combined, is a significant amount. And then there are the big guys like your Coursera, Udacity, LinkedIn Learning, and so on. So where do we fit in there? And when doing brand research, basically it was evident that we are not differentiated enough. In fact, our differentiation is you need to be kind of a category connoisseur to get it. Like really, you need to be really into the marketing space. So it's like in order to drive our future growth and to really have like the message market fit, also like our messaging needs to be clearly differentiated. And so that's what I've been working on. And so this coming year, 2021, is when CXL will undergo dramatic changes. Some of them are that we're going to drop the since I told you we're spinning off our agency, which used to be CXL Agency, into its own name, and we're going to drop the name Institute. So CXL is just CXL, and it's a learning company. And we are incorporating some totally new aspects into it. So 2021 is when CXL is going to be radically differentiated. It's another hour to explain how that's going to be, but like, watch this space. And then, you know, Wynter, I'm super excited about working on Wynter, because right now we are differentiated also by what we do, because there is no other tool out there that does messaging testing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically, it's a new idea and concept that I need to push and, you know, promote. But the vision would be that testing your messaging regularly becomes a normal thing, just like you do, you know, your web analytics, or you do user testing, or you do, you know, heat maps, or whatever the, you know, marketing measurement things. You also do message testing. So yeah, those are my priorities for the upcoming year.
Sounds good and exciting. So as we are reaching the end, there is always one thing that I ask every guest, and it is there something that we didn't talk about that you want to talk about, or some message that you want to say to the audience, or something else that you want to say for the end?
I think we covered most of the things that we've talked about. But as to the business owners and marketers, I encourage everyone to really think of the point of view that your company and you yourself have. That is not the same boring conventional things that everybody is saying. Like, what is an maybe even controversial point of view, and then really dive into it and explore it. You know, that's kind of like a self-development work that you need to do with yourself. What is it that you stand for? What is the wrong in the world that you're trying to make right? And if you have a strong point of view, that becomes your brand DNA. Then that becomes your strategic narrative, and then you can, and then differentiation, and then, you know, your message, and then, you know, you can stand out from the crowd. So yeah, explore yourself, know thyself.
Sounds good. Thank you very much for being a guest. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk about all those kind of different things that we don't talk about much these days, and looking forward to chatting with you again in the future.
Thank you for having me.